This week on Head to Head, the Duel of the Fates script revealed. Taika Waititi shoots down Star Wars rumors, and Emperor Palpatine versus Master Yoda, plus your questions, and it begins right now.
You're listening to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars. Begins now.
Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this podcast. You know the whole how it should have ended videos that we always like to check out?
Yep, on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, the YouTube ones. Well, they finally came out with the Rise of Skywalker one.
Uh-oh.
Man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's funny.
I have a bad feeling about this.
No, it's really good. It's like, you guys all have to check it out, actually. I mean, I'll even leave a link to it in, our show notes or whatever, but it is by far, I think, one of the funniest ones of all the Star Wars related ones. Because, they do all the Marvel ones. They do DC. They do...
pretty much a lot of movies. A lot of the big kind of action movies.
Mm-hmm. And it's been around for a long time, too. Mm-hmm. It's been one of those...
kind of reoccurring. Yeah,
reoccurring things that, they've essentially done for, years.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting for it.
Well, it had to be coming.
Yeah, it had to be coming, but it is great.
Because that Last Jedi one was brutal.
And this one's even more so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely got to check it out there.
They have this whole thing, when Palpatine's like getting ready for them to come, and he's like talking to his Sith acolytes and directing them on how he wants them to hum. And then he's like, Brian, I think that's you. You're a little pitchy. It actually goes like that. I mean, it's brutally funny. By far one of the funniest ones. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, you really have to do it.
All right, cool.
Because usually I don't go on and on. Like, I actually think it's a really funny series. Mm-hmm. But it's not like I'll share it every once in a while. But most of the time, I'm not.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like how we felt about Robot Chicken. Like those skits, it was like those are like legendary for us. Especially
absolutely.
That Palpatine one.
The Palpatine one's the best. And we still quote that.
Quote it, still crack. I mean, I can still watch it like right now and still laugh as I never saw it.
Exactly. That's actually a good description because I feel the exact same way. All right, well, it's time to head out to the Cantina.
Yes, it's time for my drink.
Yes.
All right. So,
what do we got first?
So, since we're talking about Rise of Skywalker, so there's been some things, of course, bringing up Kylo Ren's helmet. Now, when we first got introduced to Kylo Ren, of course, he has his helmet, and we always thought that he's trying to be like, oh, he must be the new Vader. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of start to see, as we kind of predicted, that once Rise of Skywalker kind of came to a conclusion, we were going to start getting like supplemental information, books, comics, things like that. They're actually going to support a lot of the things, fill in the plot holes, pretty much. That
last week, I think I brought up the Rise of Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
as one of the comics,
which is has a lot of meaty and juicy stuff in there.
Did you finally get a chance to check it out?
Not some of it, not yet. I haven't had a chance to get all of it.
It's like yes, we talked about it the whole time, but no, I haven't read it yet. I know it's one of those things that it's really difficult a lot of times because of all the supplemental material they have out.
Content news keeps popping up, then you got your everyday life stuff that's going, so you're trying to catch up with everything.
And the problem that I always have, particularly when they release a bunch of novels, because they'll go through like these various stages. They'll go releasing like I don't know, like movie tie-in type ones that directly relate to the movie. Mm-hmm. But then they'll also release, like you were saying, a bunch of supplemental ones that either fill in gaps in the storyline or perhaps give you some background on a character that was introduced in the current film.
Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, I will get a chance to read it because, fortunately, thank the heavens, in the words.
That's true. You're on break now.
I'm on break now, so now I can actually take some time in.
Well, I would highly suggest, even though this is a little bit of a rehash from last week, but I would suggest that you get the new Darth Vader series.
Okay.
They're only like 1 or 2 issues into it.
Okay.
I would also recommend the Rise of Kylo Ren.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I think this is going to tie in a little bit with what you're going to bring up.
Yep.
Because remember, I don't know, he's the outline guy. So
yeah. So I mean, pretty much the whole thing was about the helmet. So everybody thought that he was just really trying to do the whole Vader thing, but really he kind of, once he joined the Knights of Ren, he kind of took on this whole thing because, one, he was still kind of new to everything. He was still kind of insecure about a lot of stuff. And so he realized that he could hide behind that mask. And it was like, he was a completely different person, which is why a lot of people wear masks, metaphorically speaking, in their own lives, where they try to pretend they're someone else because they're insecure for who they really are. But then also he found that it was great for intimidation, as far as the voice box that was in the thing. And then the fact that it was just kind of creepy and kind of made people reminiscent of Vader. He realized that, I need to keep this because this kind of allows me to kind of hide behind my emotions and things like that, because he's still dealing with the light. But on the other side of it, too, it provides great intimidation. So,
well, let me ask you this. Now, are you getting this from some sort of a thing that you read, or
there was an article,
just observations that you just came up with? Or
well, Adam Driver did come to my house, and we sat down and talked for a little bit, and we went through his emotional issues.
Okay, so it was that time. It was last Tuesday then.
No, but no. I mean, actually, I got some of the stuff. It was an article that came out, and then I think there was it's dealt with in one of the comics or some book that's coming out.
Well, the Rise of Kylo Ren, actually, people are going to start to think that maybe I wrote this thing myself or something. But I mean, they deal with how he came to know the Knights of Ren, and then eventually how he joined.
Right.
Because remember, it opens up with him destroying, all the Jedi in the temple, all the students and everything like that, and kind of the aftermath of that.
Right.
So we see the Jedi that were not on the planet at the time. They came back. They witnessed Kylo's destruction, or just going, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" But basically, it covers his whole turn to the dark side, him eventually hooking up with the Knights of Ren and things like that.
Yep.
So it sounds like this article is probably referencing some of that. Yeah, you'll have to send me the link to it.
Yeah, definitely. So, enough about Kylo.
Yes, enough about Kylo.
Yes, and his metaphorical mask.
Even though I got to say, Kylo is hands down one of my favorite characters of the new, the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He's definitely a very complex and robust character.
Exactly. He's complex. He's robust. I think a lot of times he's unfairly criticized.
Yeah. He's actually, in some ways, he's cooler, and I just feel like we didn't get a whole lot of dialogue from him that we could have really seen. But I think just his mannerism or how he kind of goes about doing things, you kind of see that he kind of has that vibe. I just wish that he had better dialogue in the sequel series.
Yeah, or at least maybe more scenes.
Yeah. Where he could actually, not so much dealing with Snoke or people he can't talk back to, but like I said, with Hux or stuff against, he's always talking to Rey, but he's always just keeps trying to convince her about stuff. But I just really wish I things that I thought, stuff.
At least my favorite parts of the whole Rey Kylo dialogue were always when Kylo was revealing a little bit of his own feelings. Basically, what he was thinking, what was motivating him. Obviously, a lot of this was to turn Rey, but he was revealing parts about himself, and I thought that there was almost a mild vulnerability in that.
Yeah. I mean, but I think, what makes him cool is just, the stuff that he would do, when he would kind of, I guess that scene when he dragged that one officer, First Order officer.
Oh, yeah.
When he says, "Work, girl," and then he snatches him across the room. So, I mean, this stuff like that is just kind of all right. Cool.
There's some cool stuff in the comic that I think you'll like as well.
Yeah, or even in the Rise of Skywalker when he comes back at the end redeemed and he's standing around the Knights of Ren and he's just kind of waiting. He kind of goes, "Shall we?" It's that kind of moment.
What's funny about that is I didn't catch it the first time that I saw it, but he was basically giving the same gesture that Han Solo gave in Return of the Jedi, where it's...
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious because I didn't even connect those.
I didn't connect that either. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that it was done on purpose. At least that's what I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, mind you. Like, I can't cite a source or anything like that, but...
Yeah, you can stand to reason. I mean, we got all the other fan service out of this, so...
Well, yeah. And
what's one more?
Rise of Skywalker, if nothing else, was definitely a fan service film.
Yeah.
Almost too much. But, all right. So I think we covered Kylo Ren pretty well. I mean, what do you guys think, though? Is Kylo Ren one of your favorite characters? Is he somebody... Because I know a lot of people always say that he's like this crybaby, whiny... Darth Vader wannabe Sith Lord or whatever. And, of course, obviously neither one of us agree with that assessment, but we would love to hear from you guys. You know, hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you think. All right, what do we got next?
All right, now on to the man whose name I will try not to butcher. Taika
Waititi.
See, thank you. Taika Waititi. Yeah, him.
Mr. T.
So... he's actually been rumored to be heading up some Star Wars films.
Yeah, no, that's what I heard. No, according to our own notes now, you're saying that
sources,
that's not true?
They've kind of asked him about it, and he's pretty much kind of shot down some things and basically said he would love to, but...
Has he not been officially approached or something?
Well, I think the stuff that he was approached with wasn't good enough for him. Like, I think he kind of downplayed the script. Like, he didn't like the way it was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this. Basically, come back and come up with something better.
What's interesting to me about that, though, is the fact that in most of the cases, up until now, at least with the sequel trilogy, most of the time, the person that's been directing it has been writing it, or at least is a co-writer.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that in Waititi's case, that didn't seem to be what has transpired. It's been more... hey, here's a script idea we have. We want you to produce it.
Yeah, I mean...
which shows a little bit of somewhat of a shift in direction for Lucasfilm.
True, and I think that's honestly best because although sometimes you can't smell the funk in your own room, so to speak, if you will, because you're in it. You know what I mean? But if you have someone else writing your script for you and then you can objectively, okay, now look at it and kind of... now we can have those type of dialogues where if it's coming from you and then you're directing it, you know, although you know all the details, you know how you would want it to look. I think that sometimes, you know, you miss things in the writing piece.
I totally agree because if you want to look at what I would call the Holy Grail, Holy Trinity of Empire Strikes Back, which of course is considered to be the best of all the films, really. You have Lucas coming up with the main story and overseeing the project. You have Irvin Kershner directing it, guiding the actor's performance, collaborating with them. And then you have Lawrence Kasdan writing the script.
Yeah.
So you have separate guys doing each of the things. And I think that if they would just follow that formula, instead of trying to tamper with it and inject some of their own thing, it's like stick with what works. Yeah. And in that case, I think if you have each of the people, even if you had somebody like, say, a J.J. Abrams or a Dave Filoni or whatever guiding the story, so filling the Lucas role, in other words. Yeah. Like
I could honestly see like something to this effect of having, all right, you got Filoni coming up with the story or approving the story, at least. Like, he might have come up with the story, but let's just say...
yeah, but guiding it along.
Right. So let's just say, you know, you have that, then coupled with Kevin Feige or something directing, and then you have Claudia Gray as a writer or something like that. So you kind of have...
or any script writer that maybe...
who really just understands the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even Kasdan's kid. He wrote, I think he co-wrote part of Solo. I'm pretty sure it was part of Solo. Yeah. Kasdan, Solo was like his last
thing. Yep.
Last thing. And he said, okay, this is going to be it or whatever. But he brought his kid into it. And apparently some of the scenes that his kid wrote or whatever actually not only made it into the film,
but they were kind of like highlights.
But they were actually highlights. Yeah. Because sometimes, you know, they'll write stuff in scripts and, you know, it just doesn't make it, or it gets cut, or it gets edited. It doesn't even get shot. But in this case, some of the stuff was actually a highlight. So I definitely think they should approach him. There's other Hollywood writers, or basically what you're saying, get some of the people who are writing the Star Wars novels.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, though. Not everybody that can write a novel can write a screenplay.
True. That's very true.
So you do have to be careful. I would actually, no pun intended, flip the script a little bit. I would have the Star Wars authors work with the story group to oversee the story. So, in other words, play the George Lucas role.
Okay.
Then, you get your director, and then you get
somebody to write the
somebody
dialogue.
to write the dialogue.
Okay.
Somebody that's known for writing good dialogue.
Yeah.
But what TD's basically saying that he's not.
Yeah, I mean,
so is he saying that he wants to do it? Is just.
Yeah, I think he would love to do it. And I think that's basically what he said. But I think what they presented to him.
You got to wonder what they presented to him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But see, that's kind of like one of the things too, where I kind of, in some ways, I kind of appreciate the fact that he's holding up to that standard. Like, no, I'm not going to just produce some crap, you know.
Right. It's got the Mace Windu. No, it will not be shot.
Yeah, and it's just, with him just winning, an Academy Award for his screenplay for Jojo Rabbit.
He's probably going to be a little bit more careful about.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to tarnish it. Like you don't want to come off a big high like that and then, just crash.
Well, the other thing too is that I'm sure he doesn't want another Rian Johnson situation where he's a revered director. All of a sudden, he does his version of Star Wars, and now he's vilified.
Yep.
And it took. I mean, Rian Johnson's coming back from that a little bit thanks to Knives Out.
Yeah.
But still, you get people all the time bringing up The Last Jedi on Twitter and and all the other social media platforms. So you do have to be careful, especially in the world of Star Wars, what it is you take on and what you do.
And speaking of which brings us to the next, is Kelly Marie Tran.
Now, that's a name I know you could pronounce.
Yes. And she's very easy on the eyes, too.
Yeah. I often wonder, I look at her like in this picture. This is so terrible. And I mean, I'm a guy.
We're guys. Listen, hey.
But you look at her in the movies, and then you look at her here, and you're going.
Kudos to the makeup department. So anyway, Kelly Marie.
Why? Look. That should be Rose. All right. The hashtag Me Too award goes to.
Well, it's a galaxy far, far away. They didn't have all the stuff then. Let's just leave it at that.
I'm going to actually let you get to the reason why you brought this up now.
So, Kelly Marie Tran finally breaks the silence about, her role in Rise of Skywalker. A lot of fans are kind of like clamoring, which is funny because everybody in The Last Jedi was like,
see what I'm saying?
Like, you can't please everybody.
Don't understand Star Wars fans. And I've been a Star Wars fan since the thing opened in 1977. I am that first generation Star Wars fan. And I could tell you, I'm on several different Facebook groups that I contribute to regularly. And every time I'll read a lot of these comments and I'm going, I don't understand your whole concept, your logic, none of it. And this is, I overuse this phrase a lot. You hit the nail on the head. You sit there and you talk about and you berate this poor woman on social media
to the point where she didn't even want
to. The point to where she didn't even want to be a part of it. She ended her Twitter.
Yep.
She did all this stuff because you quote unquote hated this character, and then Rise of Skywalker comes out, and now you're all going, "Hey, how come there's no Rose Tico in this movie? Why is her role diminished?" Well, maybe her role was diminished because you guys all shamed this poor woman, not only out of Star Wars, but out of social media. Maybe that's why. Although I will say, and I think we brought this up during our review of the movie, I actually thought that, even though, of course, we'll get to the Duel, the Fates script and all that later, but for Rise of Skywalker, for that story, I actually thought that they had a good balance because not everybody goes out on a mission. Yeah. And she was part of the engineers and figuring out different things and helping them. She was almost like the Chloe in 24. Yeah. Well, see, I mean, you got to understand, like, once again, you have to understand the point of a character. It's kind of like, all right, she was there to do a job. She was really found, her sister died in the opening part of the movie.
So she had a vested interest, of course, in making sure everything went well. And then, of course, and I think her story pretty much kind of concluded in The Last Jedi, quite frankly. I mean, I don't think there's really much that we need
at least for her to be focused on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, for her to be focused on, I don't think we needed to focus on her any more than what we needed to. And that's,
or shoehorn a romantic relationship just because she's a woman and there's other guys. I mean, that's another one of the things that irritates me is every time they have a female character, they always got to hook her up with somebody.
Yeah. And
that's what I actually liked about well, they kind of did that though. In a way, you could call that kiss though a little bit of a gesture. Not so much a romantic thing, but more of a gesture.
Well, I think she was romantically involved. I mean, I think she was romantically interested. I think she liked because
it was the shirtless thing, probably like, hey, Well,
I think it's this. I think it's one of those situational moments. I think it's one of those things where you have Finn was kind of like this hero to her. It's like, you're the Finn. Like, when she meets him, like, you're him. Like, you're the... So she kind of, like, idolizes pretty much what he's done.
Okay, so now we're talking about Rose.
Yeah.
I was talking about Rey there for a second.
Oh, well... I'm just saying, like...
I know, you're going back on topic. That's fine.
But, I mean, like, even for, like,
But, no, you're right. At first, she sees Finn as, like, this total hero.
Yeah, she kind of sees Finn as this hero, and she's kind of like, all right, well, listen... I really support. And then she kind of sees him kind of fall from her graces in a minute because
all within like 2.5 minutes or something. Yeah,
because he's all trying to like bail out of there. But then, of course, they go on this mission together. They kind of opened up to each other. She kind of, reveals kind of about her past and her background and stuff like that. And so I think they kind of built that whole thing. So when you look at her story with Finn, it's like, okay, when she, is all romantic towards him at the end. It's like, okay, well, they just kind of had a moment in time, but I don't think that's necessarily something that should be pursued.
And that's what I think they did right. Yeah. Or at least that's one of the things I think they did right.
Right. Now, the whole Rey thing with Kylo,
I think was more of a gesture, too.
Honestly, I think that was just, I think their bond...
That's what it is. It's like a bond. I don't know if it's necessarily romantic. It could have pursued... Definitely, if he had lived as Ben Solo.
But I think it was always. It's kind of like that. You always see the good, like women always see the good in the bad boy.
That would actually be. We should put this in our topic pool or whatever. But one of the things that we should explore on a future show, definitely, is the relationships of Star Wars.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Actually, call it the relationships of Star Wars because there is so much complexity. More so than I think what a lot of people think it, when you take it at face value. There's so much complexity in a lot of these different relationships and what's going on. When you really stop and analyze and think about them, that might actually make a good discussion topic. But I think you're right. I think that circumstantially, you could apply that to both Rose and Finn, as well as Kylo and Rey. Although on the Kylo Rey side, though, there's definitely a bond because you have the Force playing into that. You have one's light side, one's dark side. They're trying to turn each other. I mean, there's that. And, of course, the relationship that she has had with both of his parents. Right.
So it's kind of like, I know where you come from.
Uncle.
And, that too. Yeah.
And then there's the whole, she's following in the uncle's footsteps. He feels betrayed by the uncle. I mean, there's a lot of complexity there.
Definitely.
Rose and Finn, not so much. But at the same time, I agree. I think they went in the right direction where they didn't necessarily... They resisted basically the idea of, well, let's hook them up romantically.
Yeah.
Which is essentially something... It's a trap that a lot of movies fall into. And it's become cliche. And I'm so happy they didn't do that.
Yeah. But, for her, a lot of people, like I said, they were clamoring about, how come you only had like 1 minute and 16 seconds in the whole movie? And so to that, she replied, Last Jedi was my first movie, So I think I'm finally starting to realize that when you're in something of that caliber, there's so many people working to make something out of love. And no matter what you do, there's always going to be people who aren't going to be happy with that. I think the best lesson I've learned is that have fun and be present in the moment. So I'm really grateful that I got to be a part of it. So that's her actual response to it. And I think that was a very, one, mature and I think professional and a very just wise, thing is because like, that's the thing about Star Wars is that we love it so much and we hold it so dear, but it's like we kind of try to overprotect it in a way, almost like a mother,
absolutely.
And it's kind of like,
no, you're 1,000% correct. And it's done out of love.
Yeah. It's in the right place.
It's done out of a passion.
Yeah.
Somewhat misguided at times, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Even myself, I could say the same thing. There's things that I'll react emotionally to a certain thing that I read in the movies or books or whatever. And then once I reflect on it, I'll start to think, maybe I overreacted a little on that.
Sure.
But the big thing I will say in her case is I think that she's handling things a lot better than John Boyega is. It seems like every time Boyega opens his mouth, he either offends another cast member or the audience. Mm-hmm. Starting with the whole "you're not going to Disney Plus me" to saying some somewhat crude things about the Rey character with Daisy Ridley to he's obviously just having fun.
Right.
But I think he has to start to realize this is the Star Wars franchise. This is not some little movie franchise or whatever. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that there's a certain way that you conduct yourself and everything else. I mean, even Harrison Ford, everybody bashes him because of the way that he felt about the Han Solo character and everything. But he recently gave an interview on Jimmy Kimmel because they were asking, well, we thought you were done with Star Wars. Well, first of all, we thought you were done with Star Wars back in Return of the Jedi. Then you came back for The Force Awakens, which is nothing short of miraculous.
Right.
And then we see you pop up again in a new scene in The Rise of Skywalker. Well, how'd they get you to do that? And he was just joking, basically saying, well, JJ told me it would be a good idea. And, they have like this little, he and Kimmel had this like jokey way in which they conduct interviews and stuff like that. But it was cool. And it was nice that Harrison seems to be a little bit more open to returning to the universe when it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't seem to have the negative feelings. And that was what I was hoping would happen with Kelly Marie Tran. Like, ooh, don't let this fan reaction that's obviously passion-based, emotional, don't let that sour you on the entire franchise.
Right.
Or your experience on the franchise. So I'm glad to see that she is handling this with some poise and
some grace,
and grace, and hopefully all's well that ends well. Because I thought she was really good in The Rise of Skywalker. I thought her character was utilized just right. She's one of the things I thought was good about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, even going back to her performance in Last Jedi, I think that, it kind of, she's used as what I would call like a pivot point.
Sure.
Is that
she's not Rey. She's Finn's conscience.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, she's that pivot point where she kind of exposes Finn to, what the world is really like instead of that microcosm that which he lived in. He's been this stormtrooper for so long, and then now he's just trying to get away.
Right.
But she's kind of like, look, the world is bigger than you and your experience. Like, look at all these kids who are suffering. Look at all these, when you see the kids that were being enslaved, and look what they're doing to the animals, and look what they're doing to look at us, like we're on a run all the way in this casino.
We can't even park on a beach without getting busted.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up with that?
Right. Or, like we got the first, or like we're on this time crunch because we're running out of fuel, you know what I'm saying? So the world is bigger than you, and it's bigger than your issues, and it's bigger. And I think that's the reason why now in The Rise of Skywalker, now you see Finn in a more mature manner. He's like, all right, I know who I am now. I know what I must do. This is my purpose. This is my drive now. And I think you wouldn't have that growth or evolution if it wasn't for Rose. So
no, that's a good point. I did not actually consider that because what I was focused on was the flip side, which is that she acted as his conscience. Finn was always running away. Mm-hmm. He was trying to not face his own problems or his own issues head on. He was running away from everything. he saw it was a little bit of Han Solo's thing in a way. You see all this stuff happening, but you just want to get away because it's like it's a suicide mission to even try to do this. But she kept bringing him back. You know, when he was trying to escape in that escape pod, and she basically called him out on it, she was the one that was helping him realize, look, there's something bigger than your issues. It's sort of like it's like a flip side of what you're saying. Whereas what you're talking about was the whole thing in the macrocosm of it.
Yep.
Whereas she was convincing him in a lot of ways, look, you need to belong to something. You need to take a stand. You need to believe in something and believe in it enough to take a stand and fight for it.
Yeah,
and be on the right side of things.
And I think that's eventually, and those are very good points, and that's pretty much where, like, that's why I started for when they first met. You know, she's like, "Oh, you're Finn. You're the Finn." Like,
right.
So already, like, he's like, "Oh, you know me?" Like, he's so used to not being
exactly. He's not even thinking in terms of like, I'm one of the heroes of the Resistance.
Yeah, he's just looking at, I'm just some guy and that's what I'm saying. It just shows you the thought process of how everybody else views you. They see what you can be. They see the hero in you. You just don't see it yet.
Right, exactly.
And so that's pretty much what she was speaking to at that time. And then, of course, you know, as they go on their mission, you know, he talked about, okay, the little necklace that she had. And, you know, he realized how much that meant to her because of what she lost with it. You know, her sister was a part of that Haitian smelt little necklace thing she had.
Right.
So he already kind of started to see like, okay, this is a value. This is where real value is. It's in your friends. It's in your family. It's in a place where you belong, to your point. So you need to belong to something so you can have value to life. And so then when you start to see the evolution of Finn, when we get to Rise of Skywalker, now you understand, hey, this is who he's become. This is who he's grown into be. And you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Rose.
All right.
So
there you go.
There it is.
What do you guys think? Do you think that Kelly Marie Tran's contributions to Star Wars as the Rose character were important? Do you guys like the character more or less now that you've seen her in The Rise of Skywalker? And, of course, what do you think of Kelly Marie Tran's reactions to people and, you know, her performance and basically the character? Let us know in the comments section. All right. What do we got?
Well, I think it's time for us to pay the bill.
Yes. We got to leave the cantina.
Yeah, man.
And look at me. I didn't think that there was like some...
Well, I got you last time with 4, so that's probably...
That's true, and that's probably what it was. And they went by so quick. See, that's what I like about the fact that, you know, our conversations are cool and they're interesting, and you know, hopefully you guys are getting some out of it. But I think it's time for us to square up, isn't it?
Yeah, been a little feisty after the... whatever I drank.
All right, what do we got?
So next we have Duel of the Fates. All right, so this week we have Emperor Palpatine versus Master Yoda. Are they evenly matched? Now, see, I brought this up from the last podcast.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, obviously, in other segments, but I don't remember, at least I hope we didn't, I don't remember us ever comparing these two.
Well, no, I mean, because...
not in a Duel of the Fates, anyway. Not
in a Duel of the Fates, and I think this is where... it goes back to last week when I was asking the question about, when the question was asked about the Force.
Oh, yeah.
Light side versus dark side.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, is the dark side technically more powerful? Or, and you brought up, it's like, well, you can get to that power faster going dark, but going through the light side, you could be, it's equally as powerful. It's just over time. So now that we look at somebody like Master Yoda, who's, at the time when they squared off in Revenge of the Sith, I'm going to approximate he may have been around 800 something years old.
I think the accepted thing, I forgot.
Like late 800s or something like that.
Yeah, probably like, figure like 870.
888. Yeah, somewhere around there. Because by the Empire,
you said it's when 900 years old you reach, and we know that's like, 30 years or something.
Yeah.
So... yeah.
So somewhere around there. So he's around 800 or something in his years. And so then you have Palpatine, who is in his own right, in his own species, a seasoned adult. So he's not like a Qui-Gon. Well, even Qui-Gon's like 40 something. But you start looking at like Palpatine. Palpatine looks like he used to be in his 60s or something.
That's what I was going to say. I think he's probably in his 60s by the time.
Yeah.
You know, maybe late 50s.
Right.
But more than likely 60s.
So now we have to. So now that we looked at them age wise, it's like, okay. So now we have to look at strength and power. So Palpatine, what things that Palpatine can do? He can cloud, of course, the light side of the Force. He's doing all these types of things. He's kind of operating in the background. Of course, he's turning Anakin Skywalker quietly, but he's also kind of playing chess with the Jedi and starting this whole war because he kind of has his whole overarching thing. And the question was that in the Phantom Menace, at the end of Phantom Menace, that Mace Windu asked, which was destroyed, you know, the master or the apprentice. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know it was the apprentice. So now we have arguably like the greatest Jedi master of all time versus probably the strongest Sith Lord of all time that we've ever seen, at least. So who wins?
Well, I think it was actually generally accepted, and I would subscribe to this, that if we were talking this was more of a Mace versus Palpatine style, flat surface, open spaces, that Yoda would win. Because when you really look at it, Yoda was gaining the upper hand. Palpatine had started to throw out all that he had. I mean, he started chucking down all the Senate pods. Mm-hmm. Yoda caught one, sent it back up to him. He jumps up, and obviously Palpatine's big thing is Force lightning. Mm-hmm. And that's one of his greatest strengths. It's his greatest power. So he wasn't faring too well with the lightsaber. They were somewhat evenly matched, which a lot of these guys, when they reach a certain point in their training or in their Force usage or whatever, it's like
they really don't rely so much on
they don't really rely on the lightsaber because everybody's going to be fairly evenly matched. Mm-hmm. So, of course, that's when Palpatine unleashes what both the novel of Revenge of the Sith, Lucas, I think, even said it during the commentary or something, but he unleashes like his strongest volley of Force lightning. Like, okay, this is, I am trying to kill you. This isn't to teach you a lesson.
Right.
And I'm trying to kill you quick.
Yeah, full tilt.
Right. And Yoda absorbs it. And if you look at the scene, you could see that Palpatine is clearly surprised that Yoda's actually absorbing this Force energy. And not only does Yoda absorb it, he shoots it back at him and propels him back. But of course, that also propels Yoda, and Yoda falls. Now, Yoda could have gotten back up, but I think that Yoda realized he didn't have the high ground, and it might be a losing proposition, and that it was basically over. Because that's where I think the debate really comes into play, is why did Yoda give up so quickly?
Yeah, well, I think
that's where I think that somebody might have a point if they wanted to say Palpatine, but people generally argue that Palpatine had some advantages in that battle, and that's what won the battle. If the battle were fought under different circumstances, Yoda would have won. Yoda's generally considered to be more powerful, but at this time you also have to look at the pendulum of the Force. We all know the Force will go dark or it'll go light, or it just depends on what's going on within the context of the universe. So at this point, the dark side's stronger. That's why he was able to cloud all the light side guys. Now remember that during the original trilogy, the light side was stronger. And Yoda was using the life force, the Dagobah and everything to cloud the dark side. And that's why the Emperor, if you notice, he would start not sensing things. Well, no, it's funny. I didn't sense that. What are you talking about? And the only reason why Vader sensed Luke's presence on Endor was because of that family connection.
Yeah, the follow son bond.
Right. So I think that, and who knows, maybe Yoda was like, yeah, I'll let that one go because I want these two guys to face off together. other than that, though, he was totally clouding Palpatine. But it's an interesting question, though.
Well, yeah, because, I was doing some research on the Force, and this is kind of how it was really explained, is that the Force is kind of one of those things that, of course, it's always moving, always changing, things of that nature. But Jedi and Sith, of course, they tap into the Force differently. But what they are pretty much like conduits of that. So it's kind of like they're open doors, and the Force is, as they say, flows through them. So it's not so much who's necessarily, I guess, kind of like the strongest, really. And I'll kind of save some of my comments for another podcast. But I think that, Yoda I think it's all about discipline. I think it just depends on who's more disciplined in learning and acquiring. And that's why, Dooku made the statement in Attack of the Clones. He was like, how did he word? He was like, what are your skills? Like, okay, apparently our skills can be matched with lightsaber, but let's see, the knowledge of the Force, pretty much. And why? I don't know why he would do that. To me, you would think he would want to stay with the lightsabers, quite honestly, because
again,
he was your master.
Here's what you have to look at, and it goes back to the nature of the light and the dark. The dark is used more aggressively. It's used more as a weapon. It's used more offensively, whereas the light side is more of a way of life. It's used more passively, more for defense,
knowledge, wisdom.
Yeah, it's basically used to enhance your own connection to the Force, whereas the dark side's wielding the Force.
It's weaponizing it.
It's weaponizing it, exactly. So the dark side's always going to appear stronger from that point of view, simply because one is weaponizing where the other is really more trying to experience and commune with, and to, I suppose you could say, go deeper and connect. It's more of a connection than a weapon. And because you have these two various philosophies, it's very hard to compare them.
Yeah.
You almost have to do what you started to do a little bit, is to apples and apples. Go compare the dark side guys, compare the light side guys. This guy's the strongest light side, this guy's the strongest dark side. As soon as you start to compare the two on either side, you can, because it comes out with who would be victorious.
Yeah. And I think that, so is it safe to say that the victory doesn't lie with either one of them, but it's more so it lies with the Force?
I wouldn't argue that.
In the sense of, okay,
I would not argue that.
Which tide is coming in? Is it the light side or the dark side?
Well, everybody, well, maybe not so much the dark side guys, but a lot of the light side guys are always saying things such as, it's the will of the Force.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's the will of the Force. Or the will of the Force said this was going to happen. So obviously the Force is its own entity that will make its own decisions and will rise people up and do whatever it wants. It definitely has a sentience. So absolutely. A lot of times that's the X factor. That's the deciding thing.
So,
and who knows? Maybe that's why Yoda gave up so easily.
Well, I think he gave it up
because he was like, "Ooh, I think the Force doesn't want me to win this time, so I'm just going to go and chill on Dagobah till the Force is ready
to allow me to
let me know what it wants to do."
Well, I think he left just because I think, if I recall correctly in the book, Palpatine has summoned the stormtroopers.
That was it. Yes, that was it.
And he couldn't fight multiple.
He knew he couldn't do that, especially from his vantage point.
His vantage point, and it was just the sheer fact of the numbers. It's like if you got like 200 guys with blasters trying to shoot you, and then you got this super powerful Sith Lord who's like raining lightning down and God knows what else. I got to focus. And that he couldn't break his focus.
And he also couldn't risk it. It was one of those things where he might have thought,
I'm better off.
Be able to do it, but on the other hand, it's like I can't guarantee this. So
and it's like I'm more valuable alive,
exactly,
because I have the knowledge that no one else has,
and that's why he had that just crazy, freaked out look on his face, going, "Hurry!"
Yeah, like get me out of here.
Like, I mean, it was funny to see that.
It was funny to see that, but it's just like, dang, like it's bad when Yoda's running.
You know it's bad when Yoda's just like, man, get me out of here.
Right. And then it was weird to even hear him say like, "Failed have I?" Like, man,
I know.
But that does bring credence to his thing when you look at
when he talked to Luke. That might have been the moment.
Yeah,
because I mean that's when you lose the galaxy, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Luke is like worried about like, oh, poor Kylo, but it's like, no, dude, like none of this would have happened if I would have beat Palpatine.
Right, and you also have to look at the fact of even before during the Clone Wars, I think it was Attack of the Clones when he made the comment of, a lot of Jedi are becoming arrogant and overconfident, even the more experienced ones. And it was something that was beginning to plague the Jedi to where they were thinking, hey, nothing can defeat me. They almost had young Anakin Skywalker's viewpoint. Well, no one can kill a Jedi.
Yeah. Well, then that's also why Yoda cautioned Luke and Empire. He was like, when he told him,
don't underestimate the Emperor.
Yeah. Like, don't underestimate.
Yeah, because you did always wonder, like, well, how do you? And now you know.
No, yeah.
Oh, that's how he knows. Exactly. Listen, don't underestimate him.
Yep.
And by all accounts, don't fight him in a Senate room or make sure it's a flat surface if you can.
Not a whole lot of desks.
Yeah, right. Make sure there's not a whole lot of props.
Well, Luke learned that after fighting Vader. Vader's chucking everything, fire extinguishers and all types of crap.
Yeah, they actually brought that in that how it should have ended, Rise of Skywalker thing, where I think it was it Rey or was it Luke or something, started chucking stuff, and he's like going to his dad's force, goes, "Hey, look at what I can do now!" And I still can't say enough about that.
Yeah,
in fact, you're gonna have to check that out if we have time, like immediately after these podcasts. We'll throw it up. It's only like a 7-minute or 8-minute thing or whatever. All right, but what about you guys? Who do you think would win in a battle, even though we already had this in Revenge of the Sith? But if circumstances were different, do you think that Yoda would easily be the victor? Who do you think really won the Revenge of the Sith battle? Because there's been a lot of debate even in who was actually the winner of that battle. Let us know in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. All right. What we got?
So now we have from a certain point of view. All right. Certain point of view is our feature topic. This is what we talk about. This is our main story. And we're just going to get right into it. So this week.
This is ready to go, guys.
Let's go.
All right. Let's do it.
It's All-Star Weekend. Let's go. So this week we have Duel of the Fates. The script is finally released. All right. So good old Colin Trevorrow. He was the original. It's
so funny because when I think about this now, I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, man, thank goodness that JJ's stepping in and, Colin didn't end up doing it or whatever. You start to really read the full script. There's a part of you that goes, man, I kind of wish that Colin Trevorrow had been able to make this movie.
You almost wish he still would, and just like
almost like have alternate universe kind of thing,
or just have two versions of it.
Why not?
I mean, if you're going to end the Skywalker saga.
Here's what I would do if I were Kathleen Kennedy. Well, there's a lot of things like, make plans. I would probably plan out the series. But what I would do right now if I were Kathleen Kennedy, I'd make an animated version of this.
Okay.
I think it would be a really good animated movie.
Interesting.
Put it on Disney Plus, market it as like an alternate universe kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the problem is if Star Wars were only made up of hardcore fans, you could do things like this. The problem comes in with how do you market something like this? Because you already have an episode 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to confuse people.
It's going to confuse people. It's going to confuse the average moviegoer. You'd have to recoup the money you'd have to spend on it. Realistically, they would never do this. But if it were me, I would do it as a gift to the hardcores.
Yeah, I mean, this script is really cool.
I just think it's funny that we've had this topic, Duel of the Fates, and then we find out that Episode 9 very well could have been called Duel of the Fates.
Yeah.
And every time we go, well, what's next? Duel of the Fates. No, we're not talking about episode 9. This is a head-to-head battle. You know,
Yeah.
we would almost have to like explain ourselves all the time.
Yeah. But I mean, just looking at the script, you know, it's some cool stuff in there. Definitely, if you guys haven't had the chance to, you know,
Absolutely.
read it.
Yeah, we have a link to it in the description.
Yeah, definitely
Check it out.
I mean, there's even some cool. I even
all
saw
right, what do we got next?
Yeah, right. Some of the lines in there, you know, it was this whole
Oh man, that thing between
Luke and Kylo.
Yes.
Hey, we might have that Force thing that Kylo and Rey had.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not kissing you though. But here's the
I
thing.
want to appear to you shirtless.
Thank you. But one of the things was that whole, like I said, the conversation that Luke popped up to Kylo, and he's pretty much telling him that this is your path, you know, in the dark side. It's like an empty tomb, and you know, Kylo's trying to be snippy. Yeah, this is where your master led, and then of course Kylo, in typical Kylo, you know, fashion, is trying to snap back at Luke, and he's like, "Well, look at you. You're dead. You're a ghost." You know.
Yeah, it's like you. Look at where your whole way led or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't talk to me about, you know, I'm still here doing what I want to do. And he's like, I'm going to be more powerful. And then Luke answered as coolly as he wants to and said, are you sure? And that right there was just
I'm envisioning this in my head.
I'm envisioning.
And I'm thinking, like, I really
want to see this.
Want to see that scene.
Yes.
Just shoot that scene.
Well, put that somewhere.
Put it somewhere.
Put it in a book. Or
the other one, too, where Luke ended up grabbing the lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Because you saw the concept art that accompanied all this, right?
Yeah.
That concept art was incredible.
It was.
Like the characterizations they had for Rey and some of the things that she was going to do, and Kylo and the overall
the tension
story.
that they actually built in that thing, man,
and
was
the fact that they who did they kill off?
Crap.
I know. This is why you should really study.
Yes.
Before you, but I thought they killed, because the thing is that the article was basically implying, somewhat unfairly, but they did make some good points. Whereas JJ is saying, okay, I'm taking all these chances, but really nobody died other than Palpatine and, well, Kylo. And that there was, you know, C-3PO ended up getting his memory wiped, but then he got it back. Mm-hmm. So there are no real consequences. And one of the biggest criticisms of the Rise of Skywalker, which I share it to a degree, is that there wasn't anything at stake.
Yeah.
The stakes weren't high enough. They were resolved very easily.
But in this script,
oh, man.
Bruh.
You know what I really loved about this script? Hux.
Yes, Chancellor Hux. Yes.
And the whole like First Order thing. The First Order was actually very threatening. When you look at the concept art of this thing, and then you also read a lot of the descriptions of the story, the First Order was a very fearsome, even more so than the Empire in a lot of ways.
So my question for you is this. Why do you think that they got rid of this? Like, you guys must have to wonder, like, who made
that was
decision?
My exact thought. Because if you remember back to when they announced all this stuff, right? When it was Colin Trevorrow's out, J.J. Abrams is coming back. Mm-hmm. It was because Lucasfilm read the script, didn't agree with the creative direction. Trevorrow didn't really want to change it. Can't blame him.
Yeah,
and they just agreed to disagree and parted as friends.
You know, he's probably sitting there like, see, told you. You know, he's probably at home like, you should have listened to me, kid.
You know,
it's.
I think that, again, and I said this last week when we talked about it too, where you can't always go by paper and concept art, right? Because
that doesn't always translate.
Yeah, the movie could be a very different thing, and you know, you might sit there and go, "Well, it started out kind of cool. It was a good idea, but the execution was bad." Kind of like the prequels.
Yeah.
You know, the concept art of the prequels and some of the other stuff was really cool, and then you saw the films, and we're like,
Yeah, but at least they got a chance to make it for you to hate it, though. It's like, you know, it's like this guy, he didn't, I mean, like, this poor guy, man, is like, he had an awesome thing, and it's just like.
I mean, he took the characters in such a great direction.
Yeah, and I think he would have And the only thing I would have liked to have known is would he have been able to pull those emotions out of those characters? Like, would he have been that type of director?
Look, I felt something just looking at the characters and the art.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
granted, that's more the artist pulling it out of it. It's like reading a comic and saying it'd be a great movie. You don't know that. Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. Like because that's the biggest thing about a director, and much like we talked about Irvin Kershner earlier, is that he's an actor's director, and of course he allowed them to kind of like.
Well, they could have split the difference and had JJ do the story, or Colin's story, but JJ could direct it or produce it. Yeah, like executive produce, kind of like what he did with Last Jedi.
Yeah, but yeah,
you know what I think it was. Here's my opinion. You guys are certainly free to tell me yours, but
in fact, we hope that you do.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, I'll probably make an announcement to that effect after we talk about this. But I'm thinking that a lot of it had to do with the reaction of The Last Jedi.
It was too different.
I don't remember. I wish I can remember if the announcement about Trevorrow being dismissed was after The Last Jedi came out. I think it was, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because I remember we talked about, because Rian Johnson.
We've had podcasts about this.
Well, see, Rian Johnson, like, he was never. Everybody was harrowing the movie, and it was like
he was the only director that, like, there were zero issues.
Yeah, as far as going through it, not afterwards, and something different, but like.
Well, but I think, and that's my point, which I could see that you already shared because you started to say it too, is the fact that it was a little too different, and after The Last Jedi was too different, maybe they thought this was too dark, because it is. I mean, Duel of the Fates movie would have been pretty dark.
Yeah, but I mean,
and it didn't have the happy endings either.
Yeah, but I think that's maybe the part that may have.
It's interesting to find out now. Overall, from what I've seen on the web or whatever, everybody's been pretty positive about the script, but it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they made this movie. Like, what would the fan reaction be?
Well, I mean, you got to look at it, and this is my thing. Going back to it being too dark. Okay, Revenge of the Sith was dark.
That's true.
You know,
well, Empire Strikes Back was really dark too.
Now, Revenge of the Sith was the last of the prequels. Mm-hmm. It was dark, and yet it's if you poll Star Wars fans, that's their favorite one out of all. Yeah,
it's the only one out of the prequels that
they like. They really handle, like. Yeah. So then, okay, let's go back to the original, Return of the Jedi. That's the last of that particular series, or, you know, that saga. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty dark.
Not as dark as Empire, though.
Not as dark as Empire, but it was still pretty dark.
But you have to look at it from the standpoint of, well, it would depend on how many lighthearted, because one of the problems that people had with Return of the Jedi actually was because Empire was so dark and it was so good, they felt that Return of the Jedi was a little bit too kid-like, especially with the Ewoks.
Correct.
And some of the other dopiness, like Boba Fett, his death was so stupid.
Yeah.
The whole campiness and slapstick comedy that they had, and, you know, Cy Snoodles and her stupid little... Of course, the song is nowhere near as bad as what we got in the special editions.
Right.
But still, I mean, there's a lot of things in Return of the Jedi that you can look at and say... It's not as flawless. Let's put it that way.
Right. It's not as flawless.
It's a lot of people's favorite movie, actually.
Yeah, I think it's... But see, the thing I feel about Return of the Jedi, though, it had the dark elements in it. So when you had...
That's true. The dark stuff was dark.
Yeah. So, like, okay. Like, honestly, like, it used to kind of give me chills when I watched, like, the Emperor, like, Luke is, like, writhing on the floor, and Palpatine is just, like, frying him with lightning.
You felt that. You felt
and
Palpatine's
his screams,
aggression.
That's
Luke's screams. When Vader was looking back and forth, you felt that
tension.
Oh, should I help him? You felt that tension. It was almost like you were in the room with them.
Exactly.
That I thought was done very well. Yeah, so that was dark.
You had the... I mean, even though it wasn't necessarily... quote unquote dark, but it was kind of like when Luke went back to see Yoda, and it was just that ominous kind of like you could even hear in the music, which, thank God for John Williams. But like even in the music, you could kind of hear, because it kind of started off like, well, it's kind of a cool, chill thing. And then Yoda, when he finally laid down, it kind of switched to like, okay, it's like watching your grandfather die.
Right.
And it was just like, that was like a really sad. And then, of course, as his last, breath is pretty much like he's warning him, like, don't underestimate the Emperor. And then, then he lets him know there's another Skywalker.
Like, dude, look, I got this holocron that has our whole duel that was recorded in the Senate room. I mean, look at this.
Just watch it.
This is me.
Yeah.
Right?
And I was younger.
How do you think you're going to do?
Exactly. Good luck. So,
No, I'll actually go you another one. This is one that a lot of people don't really think about, I don't think, because it was... Well, you remember how George Lucas was trying to make it somewhat of an allegory to Vietnam? Mm-hmm. So one of the things he put in there, I don't remember if it was Apocalypse Now or is one of the Vietnam movies. He kind of lifted a scene from it when the one Ewok was like watching the other one and kind of like shake him awake. And,
that was
so heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was.
And it was. I mean, it really got you, man. It was kind of a dark. I mean, there was some dark things going on during that battle.
Sure.
And then, of course, let's not forget, they don't show it, but they imply that the Ewoks are eating the stormtroopers, and they were trying to eat the main characters. These little carnivorous little creatures were kind of dark in their own way. Well,
then, and of course, like, the fact that they were walking into the trap, so, like, Palpatine is showing them, and it's like, once again, there's thing, like, okay, when they were like, oh, it's a trap, and, like, you see this horde of, like, TIE fighters, and then, of course... The Death Star is picking off like all their ships.
Watches, your fleet and everything's hopeless. And you did. You felt that helplessness and hopelessness that Luke definitely had.
Yeah. And so I think, and then of course, even when Vader, kind of was trying to tempt Luke, is like, oh, sister, you have a twin sister, your feelings have betrayed her too, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So, he said, like, well, if you won't join, then maybe and you're just like, oh, crap. Like,
well, and the thing that's funny, because we all know that my favorite Vader line is the Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet. It's like the way that he delivers that line, it's like, it chills. That one, though, is another one when he's like, well, perhaps she will. And it was like so emphatic, and you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
that's just like evil, dude. And then, and then Luke, of course, is like,
yep.
He came out of his little box or whatever and just
he's
cleaning house.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think they had a lot of dark moments in
Well, that's just it, though. But
not the overall movie.
That's where Empire's a little different. There's definite, don't get me wrong, Return of the Jedi is like way darker than, say, A New Hope.
True.
But I think that the Duel of the Fates movie would have been a little bit more like Empire Strikes Back. It would have had that overall, perhaps even darker. Yeah. Kind of like, I mean, Revenge of the Sith was pretty dark, actually. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you really stop and think about
all the stuff, man.
All the stuff. Like, even when you go to when Padme and Anakin are like in different buildings or whatever, and they're kind of staring in each other's general direction, and you have that that music, dark, ominous music, and
the skies like that were orange.
Yeah, it's just like, man, this is. I remember in the theaters just going,
this is creepy.
Boy, this is just like, it's kind of creepy and depressing, and
but then
I want to watch a Star Wars movie, man. This is like bumming me out.
Well, then you that. Then of course, he's going to kill younglings. He's marching in.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, I was kind of like,
that's the best. Wasn't that how it should have ended thing? There was something where, when Anakin turns into a Force ghost, it's like all the younglings are older or whatever. Like, hey, man,
remember us?
Something like that. But I digress.
Then he had to kill all the separatists, and that.
Oh, that was
like he just went in, especially if you read it in the book.
The book was the best.
Yeah, man, the book is just like, okay.
What was it? Something like, well, you said he was going to give us a reward, and it's like, yeah, I'm here to get. I can't remember how he put it.
The lines they wrote in that thing was perfect.
Yeah, the lines that they wrote in that was
perfect. Yeah,
it's great. It's almost, what it reminded me of was in Return of the Jedi when Luke was like, you serve your master well, and you will be rewarded.
Yep. Forgot about that, but
that was. I mean, there's some really good lines in that.
But you know what? I this is kind of how I pegged Colin Trevorrow's. I think Colin Trevorrow's version of Episode 9 would have been Rogue One with Jedi and Sith.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
I think it would, because if you
everybody forgets, man,
like, Rogue One was
like
dark,
super dark.
It was dark. It had that gritty, but it was very like. And then when you talk about like you felt the anxiety of like, how are we going to get these plans? Mm-hmm. And even when they did get the plans, it still wasn't over because Vader showed up. So it's still like,
oh, and that whole scene,
was just like,
that's like horror movie.
Yeah, man.
Dark. That's a good point. And you know what else I think? Because you brought it up a little earlier when you brought up John Williams. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the music that John Williams would have put to those scenes?
Lord Jesus.
I want to see the movie.
I don't even want to talk about this anymore because I'm getting upset.
That's it. Now we're going to get mad. Well, what about you guys? Are you guys mad that, at first we were all saying that J.J. Abrams, he's coming in and he's going to save Episode 9. And we're like, oh, crap, I would rather have had this Episode 9. What do you guys think? Would you have rather have seen Duel of the Fates? Do you think Rise of Skywalker ultimately was better? We realize this is somewhat of an unfair comparison because Rise of Skywalker was actually made into a movie. This wasn't, so it's like concept versus, product.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys think in the comment section. We'd love to discuss this one with you guys. All right. This time we're going to move on to your questions now. And this is a little segment that we call Clear Your Mind. That's right. After we have now got our hot temper feelings up from Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9 that I think all would have liked to have seen, we are now going to turn our thoughts and our attention to your questions. Hopefully you guys don't ask us any questions about Duel of the Fates, but who do we got first? And what are they asking?
All right, so the first question comes from Talik Cade. He asks, why do you think Yoda didn't go with Obi-Wan to confront Vader and then go together to confront the Emperor?
I said this to you when we saw the movie way back in 2005. I get it, where Obi-Wan was all like, well, let me go against the Emperor because I can't kill Anakin. It's like, dude, that's not happening. You couldn't even go up against Dooku for more than like 30 seconds without getting pretty much your butt handed to you, right? You're not going to win against the Emperor. But I remember saying what would have made sense is if Yoda and Anakin, that would have been interesting. Yeah. If Yoda and Obi-Wan had teamed up, gone to Mustafar, did away with Anakin.
Or at least maybe turned him back.
Could
that happen?
Well, and the problem is that Anakin was pretty far gone, though.
Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying,
but then again, with Yoda, though.
But what I'm saying, like, thinking about it, like, okay, so, like technically we saw it happen in Rise of Skywalker because obviously Ben Solo basically came back and Kylo was done. But what I'm saying is like, could
Vader did too.
But true. But could you do it and like just be a Jedi again? Or do you still have to pay for your crime, so to speak? Almost like an Ahsoka situation. Because
I think if he hadn't wiped out all the younglings and everything, because Anakin himself didn't actually, other than the younglings, he didn't really kill anybody.
That was bad. I mean, we killed the Separatists. They were bad.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He didn't really kill anybody that would have been, like it would have been some irreparable thing.
Right.
The younglings would have been about the only thing.
Right.
But you could have just been like, didn't happen. We'll just say the clone troopers did it or something.
Padme, that was another one you can't really overlook.
And here's my thing. This is what would have been kind of cool. See, if both of those guys had gone, if Yoda had known about the Force healing thing, he could have healed her. If he had healed Padme, Anakin would have been like, oh, well, all right, you're kind of cool now. I like the Jedi. Mm-hmm. And then all three of them gone against the Emperor.
That's what I was thinking. Like all three of them could have taken out Palpatine.
But either way, even if they had to wipe out Anakin, then they could have gone against the Emperor. And maybe rounded up some of the other Jedi that were left that did not fall yet to Order 66. But either way, they would have been way better off. But once again, I don't know. I can't help but think that was where some of the arrogance was coming in. Because if you remember, Yoda was pretty pretty arrogant, you know? I mean, he walks in and probably like my favorite scene in the whole movie where he just waves his hand and the fearsome Imperial Royal Guards just fly against the wall and are knocked out.
Yep.
And then, of course, you know, the first thing when the Emperor, like, thinks that he had pretty much did away with Yoda, and then Yoda just shoots him, like, right across the room. I mean, to see the Emperor just fly across like a ragdoll,
yeah.
You could see that, hey, you're not dealing with the average Jedi or something.
Yeah, and then, of course, even that moment when Palpatine tries to leave and Yoda blocks the door.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Why leave? You know, I mean, he was just basically really laying into him.
Mm-hmm.
So Yoda wasn't the least bit afraid of him.
No.
Like, at all.
No.
So I think that was part of the problem. That Yoda thought, you know what, I've got this.
Yeah.
And
like per our Duel of the Fates, not Colin Trevorrow's, our Duel of the Fates today, you know, then you could probably say, like, if Obi-Wan would have been there to assist, they definitely probably could have at least, or if Yoda. Let's
be realistic. Obi-Wan would have been hit with Force lightning like 30 seconds into the battle, and it still would have been.
But at least when he came to, he could have dealt with the stormtroopers, and Yoda could have focused.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Right. See, it's okay. So yeah. So we actually answered this person's question way back in 2005.
We agree with you. That should have happened.
Yeah, that's what should have happened.
However,
it didn't. Deal with it. All right. What do we got next?
All right. Next we have.
It's like boxing gloves are about to come on.
Bring on.
Chilling like a villain, like my shirt says.
I know. You're on the light side. That's weird. But Breon Thomas asked the question. With Master Mace Windu being able to channel the dark side of the Force, but keeping himself enough in the light, wouldn't that make him more powerful than Yoda?
No, because that would be true if he was as powerful in the light as Yoda.
Well, he was.
So it would be kind of like this. Let's say you combine, I don't know, two liquids.
Okay.
All right. Yoda has a 32-ounce glass.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, well, let's just say Mace has a 24-ounce glass.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's basically putting in a little bit of light side, a little bit of dark side, a little rum and coke in his. Right?
Back to the cantina, I see.
Yeah. All right. But Yoda essentially is putting like straight vodka in his. And he's got like 32 ounces of it. So even though Mace is combining a couple of different disciplines, different sides of the thing,
mm-hmm.
Yoda has the higher capacity.
He has a higher concentration.
And a higher concentration, and it's more powerful. So that is probably the most, I suppose, alcoholic way I could explain this. But that's kind of it. It all has to do with capacity. Yes, Mace was basically combining his light side strength, which, don't get me wrong, considerable.
True.
He's very powerful. But the problem is, Mace at his peak, he just doesn't have the capacity. It's almost like comparing IQs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I used to compare this to students all the time. It's like there might be somebody who's more intelligent, who has more the capacity to be smart than you do. But if you're using yours to your full capacity,
mm-hmm.
So like, for instance, using that same thing, you know, if you're taking water, you know, let's say I have a 32-ounce glass, you have a 24-ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so technically maybe I'm more intelligent. Mm-hmm. Like I have a higher capacity for intellect.
But you only fill yours at 24.
Or if I only fill mine to 20,
mm-hmm.
but you fill yours to 24, okay, you're using the full capacity. I may have a higher capacity, but I don't have it as full as you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the thing, and that's sort of where the whole thing with Mace and Yoda, it's like Yoda's capacity is much higher, and he's filled it.
Yeah. I think,
not to mention he's had more time. Now, granted, Mace
I think that's really the thing that the greatest equalizer being, that's in life, period. Time is always the greatest equalizer. And the more time you have, the more you can.
Sure, because you can make the argument that Luke surpassed Yoda in power.
Yeah.
And I think you could do that even beyond the old EU. I think you could even make that argument now.
Yeah. And I think that's just one of those things where, but I get what they're saying, because if the dark side is strong and you can get to power quicker by going to the dark side, to which we already explained, if Mace is already here or at a super high level on the light side, but then you add then you add the ability to tap into that dark, and you're already a super high person,
it amplifies it.
It amplifies that even more. So would that put you basically
but the thing
at the same level as Yoda?
I think if it was a flip side, if you were mostly dark and you add a little bit of light, you might be able to make that argument. The problem is the light side's more powerful. So if you're pure light side, even though you're mixing a little bit of dark side,
okay,
because basically all that's doing is mixing a little aggression. So what ends up happening is when Mace goes against a dark side guy, it freaks them out because they're not used to that, and he's using more of the aggression.
It's like a boxer who decides to go, all right, I'm gonna go southpaw, and you're used to fighting right-handed.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys are like, oh wait, this guy's fighting southpaw.
But I mean, it's a good. Once again, that's what's great about these questions.
Yeah.
I mean, these can almost be topics
in
our thing within themselves. So they're
Definitely.
questions today. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our show this week.
Yes, sir.
You guys have enjoyed what we talked about, and that you'll join us in the comments section. We've talked about a lot of different things, everything from Taika Waititi's, maybe he's going to do Star Wars, maybe he's not. We talked a little bit about Kylo Ren and his helmet and what that signifies, and of course Yoda versus Emperor Palpatine, and then the big Colin Trevorrow Duel of the Fates. Let us know what you guys think of all these topics in the comments section below. That's going to do it for this week. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.